Indie Attack. We're just kind of finishing off the week here with a couple of grab bag games. I'm Woody.
I'm Kelson.
And today we're taking a look at Minos' Maze by Meowwitch.
Mm-hmm. A student project.
Student project. Now, as the name might suggest, rather incorrectly for a mythology nerd.
Yep.
You are a person in the Minotaur's Maze.
The maze that was created by Daedalus, the inventor.
Maze created by Daedalus at the behest of Minos, king of Crete, because his wife shat the bull, and that produced the Minotaur, which needed to be hidden somewhere, hence the maze.
Right.
And you play as unnamed Greek person, not Theseus.
A woman of some sort.
Yes.
I think.
Believe so.
I believe so.
And you are traveling through the Minotaur's maze to try and find 3 pieces of a sword that you can then use to slay the Minotaur.
Yes.
There are kind of little automaton things that get in your way. Once you collect pieces of the sword, you can attack, you can kill those, you can break stuff in the environment, that gets you hearts. You have a little chalk thing that you can set down to track where you're going.
Little tags.
And kind of more importantly is that this game is randomly generated too, so the maze is different every time you play.
Right. Which adds a definite layer of complexity
Yes.
to the game. So, well, yeah, what did you take away from Minos' Maze?
This is a game that, unfortunately, I was really, really excited to play this from the title screen. Or from the title screen and from the, the art that I saw, the screenshots and stuff.
It's a good-looking game.
Good-looking game.
The bull.
Great-looking art style.
Or the Minotaur.
Yes.
Is sick. Like,
yeah.
I think that's a really awesome character that they designed for this.
The actual gameplay, I have some issues with it.
Likewise.
The the randomly generated nature is kind of the first one, where this game feels a bit meandering with the randomly generated thing, because there really is not an easy way to navigate the maze at all. They give you the chalk drawing to tell where you have been, which I suppose is kind of a small consolation, but it doesn't really serve much of a purpose.
I never once, in my playthrough, did I find a chalk that I had left as a note to myself. I was always branching off into new areas.
See, I found chalk that I had left myself.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily, the issue. The issue is that the Minotaur's always following you, so you're just kind of going where you can go as fast as you can.
Exactly.
And the Minotaur is as fast as you are. This isn't the kind of game where, you're playing cat and mouse trying to run away, but oh no, he finds you. No, this is the kind of game where he's just following you all the time right on your tail.
You have to immediately start running you have to immediately start moving, because if you don't, within seconds, you'll be overwhelmed and killed. You have to be on the move non-stop.
And speaking of movement speed, the enemies in this game move either at your speed or a little bit slower, a little bit faster. But their hitboxes are rather large, and you run into problems in some of the tight hallways where when you don't have any attack, you just get hit. There's no way to avoid certain things. If you're just too close to you and you get hit, and if you get the wrong configuration of maze, one of the times I booted this up, I ran to the right at the start, ran in a really long hallway that was a dead end. And it was full of enemies, and the Minotaur, and it was like, well, I just died.
Yeah.
And there was no way to get around that. And that's kind of the nature of randomly generated stuff. You'll run into unfair situations.
Right.
Like that, and you can be a little bit forgiving of that, but it's still an annoyance.
Yeah.
And the difficulty of the game is then, once you get your piece of sword, you are pretty much invincible until you find all of the other pieces. Because you can then heal yourself. When you get hearts out of objects, you can attack them, they drop a heart. And you can also defeat enemies, too, except for the Minotaur. So after that point, it just kind of becomes wandering around the maze.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, if anything, that's... And also, there's, when you die, if you have the sword, and then you start over, it's the most deflating thing.
Yeah.
Because then you start over without the sword, and then you just feel like, man, this is, an extremely difficult game. It's just it's just purely difficulty with there's no reward,
Well, the anathema to sort of what I'm saying is why you could fix this.
Yes.
Really easily is you need to have some way of knowing where things are in the maze. And I would suggest maybe a different kind of upgrade in addition to the sword. So you can get the sword, and that lets you attack. But then you can also get a map, maybe, that gives you a small mini-map, kind of, maybe there's 4 pieces, one in each corner of the map or something like that. And it will give you what that part of the map looks like.
Maybe instead of... Yeah.
Or maybe every time you get a piece of sword, the camera pulls out a little bit so you can see more of the maze and plan more.
Right, subtle things, you know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily make this super easy, but just give a little bit more, you know. I think that's really the core thing. Is just there's elements that are great. The art style is really good.
Yeah.
You know.
And even the concept of this too, of that, you know, it's a game based off of the Minotaur's maze, and it's randomly generated. If you were going to do anything randomly generated, this is probably about the best thing in the world that you randomly generated a maze.
Right. It does make certain sense. Although at the same time, I feel like they could have had just a really well. The other side of that is have a map worthy of the name of Daedalus and have just, you know, shifting terrain, alternating elements, you know, and like instead of just, you know, the same repeated pathways. But I think it's a noble effort, again, you know, not to be overly critical of a student project, but just,
I still had fun with this. You know, we're being critical, but I did have fun with this.
I did too. You know, it's so straightforward, and you do just immediately hit the ground running that I did get a certain amount of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So I would say, you know, give this 5 minutes, see if you like it or not.
If you like it, and then you might be compelled to slay that Minotaur.
Yeah.